But the most interesting case, though, for Mill that he makes on liberty is, what if the 1% is actually wrong, like objectively wrong? What if we had a machine that could tell us with 100% certainty, you guys are totally right about this. This person really is a crackpot. She has no idea what she's talking about. Should we tolerate that view? But just generally on liberty just gives the case for why we ought to tolerate, and by tolerate I mean tolerate, like not just ignore someone, but
right.
Confront someone with ideas that we find deeply offensive and deeply troubling, and yet nonetheless allow them to say it.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that distinction though, because the word tolerance even has become politicized these days.
That's right.
Right?
So I mean, there's tolerance and there's apathy.
Yeah.
We tend to mistake the one for the other. I mean, tolerance, particularly like religious tolerance. When Locke was writing about religious tolerance, I mean, the demands for this were high. I mean, it was a demanding doctrine. It says, listen, there's your neighbor. He might be engaged in religious practices that you think, not only are they condemning him to hell, but they might actually suck you down into the. I mean, those are high stakes.
Right.
Today we're like, this guy eats that food and he eats that food and he wears that dress, and I'm just not going to pitch a fit about it.
Yeah.
But so Mill, you'd say, listen, we got to tolerate people with offensive views for a couple reasons. So on the one hand, it might just be the case that they're right and we're wrong. So we're the majority. We're 99% of popular opinion on this particular issue, and then you have this one guy who won't shut up and insists that we're wrong. Well, I mean, this is the Socrates case, right? So, I mean, it might just be the fact that he's actually right, and that we're going to be made better off through interacting with him on this.
Yeah, and that's a pretty healthy way to view someone, right? Like that your opponent's intentions might be good, might be right. Yeah. You might be wrong.
That's right. You might be wrong, which itself is a very demanding doctrine. But in that case, it's clearly justified to let him speak his mind, because if you're remedied of an error of being in the wrong, then you're made better off, and so it's justified. Or it could be, he says, it could be that the truth is maybe split between us. So we hold most of the truth, the majority opinion, we are mostly right, but the other side might be right in some different ways, or the truth might be somewhere in between, in which case we're going to come to a better understanding of the issue through a kind of interaction one-on-one. But the most interesting case, though, for Mill that he makes on liberty is, what if the 1% is actually wrong, like objectively wrong? What if we had a machine that could tell us with 100% certainty, you guys are totally right about this. This person really is a crackpot. She has no idea what she's talking about. Should we tolerate that view? And of course, we can think of parallels for this all over the place. And I mean, so if I'm a Jewish community in Skokie or whatever, should I allow Nazis to walk through my streets and protest and all this kind of stuff? I mean, we know Nazism is wrong. We know that anti-Semitism is wrong. We know all these these are horrendous views, and hold no place in polite society and all that kind of stuff. So, should we prevent them from speaking out and saying their mind? Bill says, no, even in that case, you're actually made better off through interacting with these particular views. You are, you're given a chance for your views on a particular matter to become, in some sense, more alive, to become better. And I see this all the time. So, I mean, when I teach something like Locke, or when I teach Mill or whatever to students today, I mean, a lot of my students, I mean, these are good 20-year-old kids. They have the right views on most things, right? They know that human beings should be treated equally and all this kind of stuff. But if you press just the slightest bit, right? If you say, why should they be treated equally? What sort of doctrine are your views based on? Or is it based on a kind of natural equality? I mean, in other words, once you start kind of poking around the edges of this view, they tense up a little bit. They're not really sure. In other words, they have the right views, but they don't hold them for the right reasons. Yeah. They don't really remember why or how they came to these particular views. They hold them in a kind of shallow or sort of hollow sort of way. And so for Mill, interacting with someone who pushes you on these things, interacting with someone who genuinely does hold wrong views, gives you the chance to reinvigorate your own views on particular issues. So that's the basic argument of On Liberties.